It's no secret that on Earth there's much more water than land. About 71% of our planet is covered in water, and only about 29% of it is land. There's so much water that from space, our planet appears blue with a small splash of green, yellow, and white. But let's imagine for a second that everything has changed. And now, where the continents once were, there's water. And all of the oceans have evaporated, exposing a hard surface. Do you think humanity will be happy and the problem of overpopulation will be solved? I decided to do some research, and now I'm going to tell you what came of it. For those of you who are always freezing, there's good news. On our new Earth, most of which is now covered by land, air temperature will rise significantly. Indeed, the oceans, which previously occupied an area of almost 361 million square kilometers, that's 139 million square miles, will disappear. But they used to absorb more than 90% of the excess heat from the atmosphere and served as the main barrier to abrupt climate changes on our planet. Now, with less than half the amount of water on Earth as we had before, the ocean's ability to absorb heat will also drop from 90% to 37%. From now on, the sun will mercilessly burn the Earth, gradually depriving it of vegetation and turning it into one huge desert. A more or less mild climate will persist only in the coastal areas. And in other areas, people can forever forget about warm clothes, skiing, and playing with snowballs. The poles of the Earth can also say goodbye to their centuries-old snow caps. And the concept of glaciers will remain only in history textbooks and the recollections of eyewitnesses. The entire ice cover of our planet will melt, and every nearby area will be flooded. The composition of the air will inevitably change. That small amount of algae in the new oceans won't be able to control the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and produce enough oxygen as it once did before. Marine vegetation will also have to adapt to these new conditions because the oceans will become much warmer. In the air, there will be more carbon dioxide and less oxygen. The greenhouse effect will intensify, and the Earth will become even warmer. The hot air, unsaturated with oxygen, will become difficult to breathe. It turns out that even when the level of oxygen in the air drops to 10 to 14%, our psychological well-being is at stake. Irreversible changes in the body begin. When reduced to 6%, death is imminent. But perhaps it won't be so bad. Mankind will be able to adapt by absorbing CO2 with special installations, and venturing outdoors will be possible only with an oxygen tank. But these conditions cannot be called comfortable for life. But what will happen to our fauna? It's in for a big shock. Unfortunately, herbivores will almost completely disappear. They'll simply have nothing to eat. But there will obviously be more carnivores. Cold-blooded animals will be able to adapt because they know how to change the temperature of their body depending on the ambient temperature. Snakes and lizards will cover the planet, but birds and mammals will either die or take an evolutionary leap. To survive, they'll have to adapt. Fish from the oceans, of course, won't disappear, but commercial fish may become smaller due to the changes in temperature and increased acidity of the water. A huge part of the world's population will be left without a livelihood, since only a select few living in coastal territories will be able to engage in fishing and agriculture. Some regions will flourish, while others will be forced to survive, struggling with the effects of climate change, hunger, thirst, and poverty. Most likely, this won't last long, and in desperation, people will fight for lands more suitable for life. Although we'll find more available land, this situation is clearly unsuitable for normal life. Widespread drought will affect our freshwater supply. It'll become the most scarce and expensive resource. Mankind may have to completely switch to consuming desalinated seawater or look for new fresh sources. For example, hidden underground or beneath the oceans. The landscape of our planet will also change beyond recognition. Can you imagine how many seamounts and volcanoes are hidden under the surface of the ocean? I'm afraid to even imagine it, because humans have only studied 2 to 5% of the depths of our oceans. So there are surely a lot of surprises. For example, on November 11, 2018, a major seismic event occurred in the area of the Mayotte Archipelago in the Indian Ocean. This was a surprise, but almost no one noticed it except for special sensors. The eruption occurred too deep underwater. Now, what would happen if this occurred on land? There are more than 1 million underwater volcanoes on Earth. And although scientists believe that most of them have long been extinct, that's just a guess. When the Earth decides to expose them, waiting for nature's mercy won't be worth it. These facts already speak volumes. Every year, underwater volcanoes spew 12 to 15 times more magma than all volcanic eruptions on land. A red-hot land will be covered with high mountains. In this new world, the longest chain of mountains on Earth will appear. We're talking about the mid-ocean ridge, which will no longer have anything to do with the oceans. It'll stretch for 60,000 kilometers. That's about 37,000 miles across the globe. And Mount Everest, even if it's visible from the table of water that has flooded Eurasia, will lose its status as the highest peak in the world. After all, it was the tallest one only above sea level. This title will pass on to Mauna Kea on the island of Hawaii, most of which is now underwater. If we calculate the height of this mountain, not from sea level, but from the ocean floor, then it's 10,203 meters, or 33,474 feet. That's 1,355 meters, or 4,445 feet more than Mount Everest. But there will be a unique opportunity to take an excursion to where the Mariana Trench used to be. Just imagine how great it will be to rappel into a rift that was once the deepest section of water on Earth. The absence of water will expose many mysteries that the ocean had at one time carefully hidden. Thousands of warships from different eras, once submerged underwater, will now become open-air museum exhibits. Next to them, hundreds of underwater cities will come to life. And most importantly, humanity will finally find out where the lost city of Atlantis is located. It's just a pity that all of man's masterpieces on the continents will be forever submerged underwater. People will have to rebuild the Taj Mahal somewhere else, erect Machu Picchu, construct the Great Wall of China with new blocks, and forge another Eiffel Tower. Unfortunately, don't expect to join an excursion to the new underwater attractions. Given the depth of the ocean, it will be difficult to reach even the tallest building on Earth today, the Burj Khalifa skyscraper in the United Arab Emirates. But travel will certainly become easier and cheaper. The most popular form of transport will be by land. The world will be enveloped in a network of railways and freeways. And given the sharp increase in the amount of land, you can forget traffic jams. Cities will become wider, and although the air will be hot, it'll surely be free of industrial pollution. And those who are used to living in crowded conditions will finally be able to straighten their shoulders. The big question is, will people remain the same as they were before? After all, everything around us will change beyond recognition. Our bodies are 60% water, but in this new environment, it'll be extremely difficult to maintain water balance. Obviously, the body's anatomy will begin adapting to survive in a world where the amount of fresh water is negligible. What the new human body will look like is hard to imagine, but it's quite possible that outwardly it will be something completely unfamiliar, devoid of any aesthetics. Most likely, we'll adapt to our new reality. After all, even now, there are rare tribes living in deserts. In the meantime, we fortunately live in a familiar world, where the oceans still wash up on our shores and keep our climate mild and our lives comfortable and happy. And it would be nice if we appreciated it. Would you like to try living for a day in a world where the oceans have become large salt lakes and where there's only one large connected continent? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to be sure not to miss the next exciting video.